Hi y'all, YouTuber Gil. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about and like the jobs or how things were again. Again we're gonna talk about comparing like the economy and the job and everything in the 80s compared to today. Yeah, currently I'm working in this distribution center, and it's very similar to the jobs that I had when I was 20 years old in 1990. I was 20 years old in 1990, and I had exactly the type of job I'm working in right now. Back then, it's very similar. Working through an agency and everything, and I back in 1990, I had this agency, and it was called Apple One. If I don't know if any of you remember, well, it would be the older fellas that would probably remember that. And I used to do Apple One. It was called Apple One Agency, and like they used to do industrial type work. And today I'm working through an agency. I mean, you imagine this. I'm still working through an agency, or I'm still working in this type of job. Well, I lost my 20-year-old job back in 2011. But anyway, so yeah, this type of job is what a typical teenager is gonna start out with, and that's what I started out with when I was a teenager in 1989 and 1990, and like majority of the workers in my job right now, that I'm working in now, is like half of them is gonna be teenagers, starting, like barely starting, and look where I'm at right now. But for me, I'm not in this job because I'm messed up or any. I mean, as far as like educate, it's nothing like that. It's nothing like that. I mean, I don't even have to exactly work if I don't want to. But I'm working because of the exercise, basically. That's one of the big reasons. And then, of course, it's supplemental income and everything. Yeah, but you know what? It's actually a unique reason why I actually like working in this place, and try to guess what that unique reason is. It's because I want to it's fun to remember how things were when I was a youngster, 20 years old, 19 years old, when I was working this type of job as my first jobs. See, it's a unique reason for why I like this job. Why I even I was actually even wanting to get a job at McDonald. Yes, believe it or not, at 47 years old. Imagine a 47-year-old working at McDonald, wanting a job at McDonald's. Well, I mean, my unique reason for that is because I want to compare like things today with the economy today and then, because it's like working in a job today as a teenager, for a teenager, like their first jobs is gonna be like what I'm working in right now. But the thing that's the big difference is the wages. You gotta remember that. So just think about that, the wages. Back in my day, when I was working in the industrial, like the same type of job I'm working in back in the day, they were paying me $5 an hour back then. But that's what the pay was. The minimum wage was $4.25 in 1989 and 1990 when I was working in these industrial jobs, and I mean loading trucks, and that's what I'm doing now. I'm doing that now, but I'm doing this job because it's kind of fun to remember my days. And plus the exercise really important for me right now. Really important because I can't be sitting around because it's bad for my body. My body really appreciates the exercise too. I'll tell you. So anyway, let's talk about the unique differences in today and yesterday. So back then, when I when I was working back then, I was pretty happy with getting $5 an hour because, you know, that was a nice, I mean, that was the most money I've ever made because it's kind of like a nice jump from $4.25 to $5, you know, back in the day. I mean, I liked that pay. I mean, back in my day, I was 19 years old and the minimum wage, I was used to the minimum wage of $3.35 an hour and everything. So let's pretend that you could go back to 1989 for a minute, and you just got your first job at this industrial job, and you're getting paid $5 an hour. So, I mean, for those of you who's barely starting your first job right now at this moment, you're probably gonna be getting paid what, $12 now because the minimum wage is 12 now or 11 over here in California anyway. So, chances are you're one of the youngsters that's probably barely starting in a new job, and they're paying you probably what, 11 or $12 an hour in this job. Now let us go back to 1989. Like if you're gonna go back to 1989 and you think that you should be getting paid $12 an hour or $11 an hour, the boss is gonna tell you, "What the fuck are you talking about? Where do you get this $12 thing? That's for the hard workers. That's for the professional doctors who's gonna make $12 an hour. What do you think? You think you're gonna make $12 right now? No way. You're gonna get paid $5. I'm giving you just $5. There's no way you're gonna get paid $12 right now. So who says you're gonna get paid $12 an hour? Well, anyway, you could take $5 an hour, take it or leave it. Well, anyway, so let's just pretend that you're in 1989. So in 1989, you're getting like $5 an hour, and in a week's time, like a typical teenager might work what, 30 hours a week. So that would translate to what that translates to about, like, if you worked, let's say that if you worked full time in 1989 in one of these industrial type jobs that pay pretty decent at $5 instead of the minimum wage of $4.25. Like on a week's time, like if you work the full 40 hours, you could bring home maybe about 175 as a first timer, as a first timer worker. You know, like 175. That's for full time though. But it's always been kind of a challenge to get full time in any job back in those days. But anyway, $175 after taxes and everything a week. That's full time though. But in my days, when I was working those places, like I was like working on the average of like maybe 25 hours a week. So I used to bring home roughly about $150 a week. You know, like working like 30 hours, 25, 30 hours, or actually around there, 25 hours. 30 hours, and of course I had some full-time weeks, and I love those weeks because I used to get close to $200, you know, back in the day. So in 1989 dollars, it was $200 or at the most, you know, but I used to bring home on the average, like I used to typically bring home $150 a week as a first timer job, or, you know, like McDonald, or when I was a teenager, when I had my first jobs. So now let's talk about having just got your first paycheck. Now this is cool. I mean, you had just got your first paycheck or your first several paychecks, and let's say that you gathered $150 the first week, and then another $150 on the second week, and another $150 for the next couple of weeks. So let's say that you gathered $600 for those days, for the time that you worked a month. You know, you worked a month to get that, and you worked your ass off too. And so now it's time to go shopping. Yes. Where do you want to go to shop right now? Let's go to Best Buy today. Let's go to. You could buy this. Yeah. It's pretty nice. You could buy this computer for $150. And you can buy, so you can buy these are a lot of cool items in here for cheap, you know, like, I mean, like, you could buy the computer for $3.99, or you could buy this, you know, flat panel TV for like $300. Man, yeah, you could buy this TV for like man, you got a lot of money. It's like, for $600, you could buy a bunch of cool stuff for $600. You know, you could buy a TV. You know, you could buy like this. You could buy like a really nice HD TV. I think this is a 50-inch, and they're only asking $369. And then, you know, Blu-ray players and then cameras, and then Xbox. This sophisticated video game for, I forgot. This is not 2018. Like the $600, all this doesn't even exist in 1989. We have to go back to 1989. I forgot. Who says that you can go get all that stuff? You're in 1989, so this is what you have to get. This is what you have available to buy. This is what you have available. I'm sorry. This is what you have available. I don't care what you say. Well, with the $600 that you saved up, you'll have to save a little bit longer so you can buy this camcorder, video camera. You have to wait a little longer. You have to wait a little longer to buy that camcorder. And then with the $600 you just made on your first month, you'll have to, this is what's available for you. Sorry. So for the $600, and then the rest of this stuff, you could buy a boombox, or you could buy this calculator for $200, or you could buy this boombox for $200 or $100 right here. Cassettes, you could buy a few cassette players. You could buy, nice. Well, you're gonna have to save for a while for these TVs here. You're gonna need to save a long time for those. Along with the video camera, the phone you can get. Oh, you can buy this TV. Actually, no, that was $3,000, not $300. No way. So, okay, this is what's available. You could buy this 25-inch TV for $25, or well, you could buy this 13-inch for. You could buy this 19-inch for $300. Nice. So these are what's available that you could buy, and then you could buy. Well, you'll have to save to buy a really nice stereo system. You know, if you want to build a nice stereo system, you're gonna have to save for a little bit. So nice stereo, cassette players, and maybe CD players are super expensive. So you'll have to save a little bit for those. The cell phone, there's a cell phone for you. $9,000 right there. Now you're gonna have to save for another month to buy that cell phone. Sorry. You're in 1989, you know. You're gonna have to, this is what you have to deal with in 1989. And you can buy a couple of microwaves. Well, anyways. But the nice thing that was nice about back then, though, I mean, you were able to buy gas for $1. Gasoline was less than $1 a gallon, and you were able to buy cars for pretty cheap back then too. And housing was not very expensive. But you gotta remember that the wages sucked, though. I mean, at $3 an hour and at $5 an hour, you can't even really do it with $5 to buy a car back then, because I mean back then, even though the cars were cheaper and gasoline was cheaper, and even when housing was cheaper, you still couldn't do it with $5 an hour. Well, heck, you can't even do it with $12 an hour. So now let's compare it with today. Let's compare it with how things are today. Similar job. I'm working similar job, but the minimum wage is $11 an hour, not 5. And I just, let's say I worked the same hours, let's say like 20, 30 hours. And at 30 hours, I'm getting $300 instead of 150. I mean, more than double. I mean, well, it's kind of like my typical check is 350 working 33 hours a week. That is money that I would have loved to earn back in my day. Yeah, I would have loved to have that money. But you had to be a professional to make $350 a week back in the day. For me, when I tried to get the job at the auto mechanic, it was promised at $300 a week or up to $400 a week that we could make. But that's working like 60 hours a week though. I had my wish for finding a job working as an auto mechanic or just any good job, and I went to the school for it, but it was hard for me to find a job doing that. So I just had to resort to these starter jobs, like this, the industrial type work, and at McDonald and everything. So, I mean, with the starter jobs, I would bring home typically $150 a week for like 25 hours or 30 hours, whatever. But now, if I was going to be rewinding myself back to the 90s, but with 2018 job, I mean, I'm doing this job, I'm working this job, and I'm liking it for the unique reason, for remembering when I used to work in the 90s, when I had my first jobs in the 1990s. And this is kind of like a first job of today, like for a typical teenager today. Now, the ultimate comparison is like for today, that the wages are a lot better off at $12 an hour, and I'm typically bringing home what the typical teenager is bringing home, like at $12 an hour. Like a typical teenager is now bringing home like 300, 350 a week now, instead of 150. Now, let's go shopping. You just got paid and you just saved for a month already. You got your first month's worth of paychecks. And how much is that? Like $300 you get? You say you have $1,200 on your first month. That's double. Now, let's go back. Like $1,200 you just got paid. $1,200 you saved for $1,200. Now you're allowed to look at these ads. Now for $1,200, you can buy a lot of stuff here. I mean, you could buy so much cool stuff now compared to what you're able to buy back then. So what would you do with $1,200 today? And then what would you do with $600 in 1989? What would you honestly do with $600 in 1989? Like, if only these items were available for you to buy. What would you do with $600 if only these were available for you to buy? What would you do with $600 if you had only $600 and you worked your ass off for a month to get $600? And these electronics is what was available for you to buy. With it, and then versus $1,200 of double wages, working the same hours and working about as hard as he did back then, but doubling the money. But with today's technology, like what's available today to buy. Check this out. So, I mean, for today in Best Buy, this computer, that's a Chromebook. I mean, I don't know, is this a Chromebook or? I think it's a computer. It's not a Chromebook. You can buy this for $150, and then and you can buy something really nice for $1,200 you have available. So there's a lot of things that you could buy today. I mean, a lot of cool stuff that you could buy today for $1,200. I mean, I tell you, you could buy an Apple computer for that, and then you could buy this badass TV. I mean, shit. And you could buy this badass 50-inch TV and still have $800 or $700 left over. And then you could buy this Xbox here and still have money left over. And then you could buy this camera or this camcorder here. You could buy this camcorder. Look at this camcorder. You could buy this camcorder for $200, man. Imagine that. And you have $1,200 today. It's not like you had $600. Having $600 and you don't even have enough money to buy this camcorder here. Imagine that. See, that's how things are today. So that I'm giving you the insight on how things are today versus back then. So my question would be, on this aspect of the 80s versus today, where would you rather be? On just this aspect only, though, the economy aspect. Would you rather be in today's aspect, or would you rather be in 1989? Yeah, well, for me, honestly, I probably would rather just be in today's, on this aspect of the 80s versus 2018. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video because it was kind of fun, like showing you what things were like for me in 1990 versus 2018, working the same exact type of job I first started. So this is like starter jobs, how starter jobs compared today versus the 90s. The wages are much better off, and then what's available to buy. Like it's electronics part aspect of the economy. It's a lot better off. But of course, on some other parts of the economy, like housing and cars and gasoline, it is more expensive, but the higher wages does make up for it. It does make up. So all in all, I think, it's better now because, the electronics and technology is like, that's what makes life fun to live. It can make life fun. And this TV here, you paid $500 like 2-3 years ago. Right now you could probably buy one of these used for like a couple $100. Like you only literally have to work you only have to work a day in these minimum wage jobs practically to buy one of these, to buy this sophisticated TV. And then this Xbox too, these, you could buy them for pennies now, like used. I've seen Xbox Ones for like maybe $150, $200, and you literally only have to work a day, literally just one day in these minimum wage jobs to buy those. Not like back in 1980 or 1989, like where like a camera, like for my case, was $800 for that one camcorder. So imagine saving up $5 an hour to buy this versus $12 an hour to buy one of these. Yeah, so that's what I have to tell you. This is everything I said. So I hope you enjoyed this video. So yes, okay. Okay. Happy YouTubing. I'll see you again. Yes.